Everybody's back and ready to go. We'll move back into regular session. And our next report will be the Director of the Health Department, Director Mittig. It's good to see you this month, Director. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. I don't have a written report, just a couple of updates to share with you all. First is regarding our construction project in our first floor of our health department. We are successfully through phase 2 of 3. We are still mostly on time, and we are still on budget, which is more important to me. So we are working on having the fire marshal come in and inspect those rooms for occupancy. Once that happens, we can move on to phase 3, which is the final part of our general clinic renovation. We have submitted plans to the city for renovations to our second floor clinics, so that's a separate grant, a separate pot of money, and a separate project. So I'll continue to update you all about that as we get through those phases in our building. Just wanted to quickly update you about flu season. I was at a meeting last week, heard the state epidemiologist discuss that we'll probably see an additional spike in flu before we're finished with our flu season this year. Usually we see flu types A and B come at separate times during the flu season. A and B came together this year, and we'll probably see an additional spike of A before we're finished. So if you haven't gotten a flu shot, we're still offering those at the health department and making appointments available to the public for anybody that wants to get those. I have had a few questions about coronavirus tonight from some folks, so I thought I would just briefly touch on that. Coronavirus is a family of viruses that cause pneumonia-like symptoms. If you remember 2008 SARS outbreak, and then the following couple of years we had the MERS outbreak in different parts of the world. Same family of viruses as those conditions. They cause pneumonia-like symptoms. And for those who have compromised immune systems, that's who we would be concerned about becoming ill from that. Latest I heard, there's about 2,700 people in the Asian countries who are experiencing the illness. Had a few confirmed cases here in the United States, but the CDC was on it very quickly. I know there was concern about a student at Tennessee Tech that may have contracted it upon visiting China. He tested negative for that. So not really concerned about it here much in Northeast Tennessee, but if international travel is something that someone's interested in, I would encourage them to check the CDC's website to ensure that they have all the information that's updated and know the vaccines they need to return back to the United States once they're finished with their trip. So I can answer any questions you may have, but that's all I had to share with you all tonight.
Is there any questions for Director Mittig?
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is the Director of Schools report, Dr. Flannery.
Bring your attention back to when we were in school and you used to get a report card periodically that you take home to your parents, and sometimes I look forward to that and other times I did not. It may be a shared experience. According to state law, every school in the state of Tennessee, and that's 1,758 schools, and every public school system in the state of Tennessee, and that's 147 systems, has to get a report card every year. And I'm not proud of this one, so I want to spend just a few minutes going through this, if I can. There are 6 gauges of performance in Tennessee for Tennessee schools and school system. This isn't arbitrary. All 50 states have to negotiate with the United States Department of Education under rules set forth under the Every Student Succeed Act. You may have heard of that, seen it in the paper. That's been around in some form or fashion since 1965. And we'll hit each one of these. The first one is chronically out of school. That is, well, I'm not going to read it to you. You can read. Many of you went to Washington County School. This is a new one. This isn't absences. A student can be chronically absent from school and have an excused absence. A student could be out with the flu for 5 days, be completely excused by a doctor, but still count against the school system under the chronically out of school parameter. And of the 6 gauges, this is the one you want to go down every year. The rest of them you want to go up. Washington County actually saw a 0.3% increase from 2018. We're at 13.3%. The good news is we're making progress. The bad news is we still lag the state. The state's statewide, the chronic absenteeism rate or truancy rate is about 12.5%. Gentlemen and ladies, I would say that that is the single biggest challenge Washington County Schools faces right now is chronic absenteeism. And I will tell you that it's more of a high school problem than it is elementary, but it's something that we're focusing on every day. Next is our academic achievement score. These are those tests that nobody likes. Those standardized tests that come up from Nashville in hundreds of boxes that we have to take and that have been around in some form or fashion since the 60s. I can tell you that 44.9% of our students are at or above grade level. That is a 3.7% increase from 2018. The state average is 36%. Of the 16 school districts in Northeast Tennessee, Washington County ranks number 3. The only systems ahead of us are Kingsport and Johnson City. And Kingsport's only 2% ahead of us. So as far as the county public school system goes, our teachers and our students are getting the job done. Student growth is next. This is a measure of our students gaining as much as they should be from year to year. You might have heard was this school is a level 3 school, or this teacher's a level 4. The highest you can get is level 5. And for that school year, Washington County is a level 5 school year. Only about 5% of the entities in the state of Tennessee can get that high. We're going to celebrate that because it may not happen again next year. But right now, Washington County is a level 5 school year. It's a level 5 school system, rather. Next is our ready graduate rate. It is no longer enough to just graduate from high school. You have to demonstrate that you are a ready graduate. The main way our students do that is with a high ACT score. They can do it by taking the ACT Work Keys exam, which the County Commission, we're very glad to say, subsidizes that for Washington County schools. They can take it or become a ready graduate by taking multiple advanced placement courses. We offer a dozen at each high school. They can get industry certification, which is something that you're hearing more and more about. You can become a certified nursing assistant. You can become an ASE certified mechanic in high school now. These are among the many ways that you can become a ready graduate in Tennessee. 45% of our graduates that year were ready graduates. That's a 2.7% increase from the prior year. The state average is 40%. Now, this is brand new. This is something that the state invented. So we're working on it really hard these days. Our graduation rate in the the class of 2018 was a 93.2%. That's 0.4 of an increase. That's a hard one to get to move. The state graduation rate is about 90%. This past year, the class of 2019 set an all-time record in Washington County. That was a 94.54% graduation rate. It's the highest it's ever been. Any record that we can find. Daniel Bean just blew it away. Theirs was nearly 97%. So we were really pleased with that. The last one is what's called the progress on English language proficiency. I cannot give you a number on that because we don't have enough. We have less than 30%, less than 30 students in all of Washington County that qualify as an English language learner. Now, some of the communities near us have a great many students that qualify under that, but our number of ELLs, English language learners, is low and gets lower every year. For whatever reason, your guess is as good as mine. That is the report card for Washington County Schools for that school year. It looks really good. Washington County operates 2 really good public school systems. I think you ought to be proud of it. I will entertain any questions you might have.
Is this presentation on your website?
It is not. I can put it there. I can send it to any commissioner that would like to have it. The report card itself, which goes into far more detail, is actually on the State Department of Education's website. You can look at each of our individual 16 schools and see how they're doing there. But, I'll be glad to send this, but there's a lot better data at the State Department's website. Yes, sir. Anything else?
Dr. Flannery, just one thing. You talked about Washington County being third. Was that overall in those numbers with Johnson City and,
yes,
and Kingsport?
so we're better than, I don't want to say better, we outscored, say, Elizabeth and Greenville City, Bristol, all those.
If we wanted to try to get to number 2, what would be the 3 things we'd need to do to get there?
Okay. First is attendance, as I said. You can't teach them if they're not warming a seat, and we're working on that every day. We've got some new laws in Tennessee. We've got a new structure in Washington County, a multi-tiered approach to convincing some of these kids that they need to come to school. I've been in this long enough to where you see a family that I taught the grandparents at Crockett. Well, their kids won't come to school, and now the grandkids won't come to school. So it tends to run in families. We're trying to short-circuit that. Next thing is early grade literacy. If they're not reading proficiently by the end of the 3rd grade, they're in trouble. And we're going to work on that in the coming budget. It has been a priority of mine, of the staff, and of the school board now for as long as I've been superintendent. And the third thing would be to get students more career ready. Too many of our 8th graders think they're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, no offense to them, or a rock star. And they're not aware of all of the myriad of job titles and job descriptions that are available within, say, 20 miles of where we are right now. That's a challenge that we've got. So I would say that would be our top 3 priorities right now, Mr. Chairman.
We appreciate that. It's good to know your priorities, and we want to help you get there and attain those. So just let us know what we can do to help you.
Well, there is one thing, but we'll get to that in a few weeks.
I'm sure we'll see you on February the 6th anyway, for sure. Thank you, Dr. Flannery. It's very informative. We appreciate that presentation. All right, our next item is the Audit Committee report. Commissioner Malone.
Yes, thank you. The Audit Committee doesn't meet that often, but we did meet earlier this month, and I'm grateful to those from our community that serve on that important committee. The minutes from the meeting are on page 30, and we did go over and review the findings that were in the comprehensive annual financial report, and I think in total we had just 6 findings, and the findings, the number of findings, that trend is coming way down, and I think only 2 of those findings were related to the county mayor's office, and relatively insignificant items. And if you ever deal with auditors, you know that they got to find something. There's actually very few counties in the state that get completely clean audits. It's a very rare exception. But I think in terms of formal action, I wasn't sure if our Director of Finance wanted to go over the audit report or not, but I think we do need a formal vote to accept the report. So that can come as a motion from the Audit Committee that we accept the comprehensive annual report for Washington County for the fiscal year that ended June 30, 2019.
So a motion made by Commissioner Malone to accept that report. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner England. Discussion or questions?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if the mayor or if our Director of Finance have anything to add.
You all have a hard copy of it tonight, and some of them takes some really good late night reading. It is the same number of pages as last year, 279. And you have 84 pages of footnotes, so enjoy it. Of the 6 findings, 3 of them will look at schools,
I will add that the representatives from the state that we did visit with, they were very complimentary of the county, director of finance, and this team, so thank you. Any other questions?
All right, the question's been called. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Anything else, Commissioner Blount?
No, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item is the Commercial, Industrial, and Agricultural Committee. Commissioner Carriger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our minutes are on page 34 for the January 9th meeting. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at this time. Seeing none, we do have a resolution 20-0105 for you to consider tonight, and it comes to you in the form of a motion from the CIA committee for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Carriger to approve Resolution 20-0105. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lott. Open the floor for discussion. Discussion or questions? Question has been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 0 no, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Carriger?
No, Mr. Chairman, that ends our report.
Thank you. Next item is the Employee Compensation and Benefits Committee. Commissioner McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find our report on page 44. Two items to discuss. Annual report, carrier annual report is in your packet. Hopefully you'll have a chance, if you haven't already, to do that. A lot of good news, a lot of good information in there. If you have questions, I encourage you to stop by and ask Mr. Michelle Stewart. She's going to answer a lot of that for you. If you have questions about that, it's very good. There's a lot of good news in there. Better help. Second issue we're discussing is our employees' workmen's compensation. Some issues can arise, come up about that. We'll continue to address those in our upcoming meetings. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have unless there are any further questions to me. Yes.
I can't even admit that David had to leave early for a doctor's appointment. The last
Yes.
meeting drug on longer, but one issue that I know you're talking about is this employees with the workers' compensation.
Yes. Yes.
I know it's been about 3 months since that was first brought up, and I've had a lot of employees concerned about that once they found out.
Well,
And,
sorry, go ahead.
so I know, I think when we were first elected, maybe we were given a copy of all these personnel policies. But, I would like to get a copy again of what our current policy is dealing with that, and to see, because it just don't seem fair to me when we have employees that are off on workers' comp, that they're not receiving any benefits. You know, their insurance is gone, their retirement's gone. I didn't know that as a commissioner until they were brought up to us. I just hope that we can resolve that in a timely manner, not keep, dragging it on.
No, and last month we had our an employee compensation lawyer come speak to us and talk to us about some of the issues in some areas. It's very well detailed, and then we're moving forward towards that to get that accomplished. Want to get it right. I'm more than happy to get Michelle to get you the copy of the handbook too.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Commissioner McAllister. Our next item is the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Edens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find our minutes on page 59 in your packet. I think we have 5 resolutions to bring for you tonight. First resolution will be number 20-0106, resolution amending the fiscal year budget of 2019-2020 in regards to the Washington County Schools budget amendments. Budget amendments require no increase or decrease in funding from Washington County, and on January 15, 2020, our Budget Committee recommended consideration and approval of this request. I'll bring this to you in form of a motion, sir.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens to approve Resolution 2106. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lott. Discussion? Questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstain, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
Thank you, sir. Next resolution will be resolution number 20-0107, resolution amending the fiscal year budget of 2019-2020 regards Washington County Schools food service budget amendments. This budget amendment also requires no increase or decrease in funding from Washington County, and on January 15th was recommended for approval by our Budget Committee. Bring this to you in form of a motion, sir.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Davenport to approve the resolution. Discussion? Question has been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstain, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
Thank you, sir. Next resolution is number 20-0108, resolution authorizing the purchase of propane school buses funded from the Capital Projects Fund for fiscal year 2019-2020 in the amount of $464,560 and authorizing related interlocal agreement. This also was approved and recommended January 15th by our Budget Committee. Bring this to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion? Commissioner Jones?
Just a comment to say that our, the grant writer for the school district wrote a grant to Volkswagen to fund the offset, the cost of buying more expensive buses. And what this means is that we have the opportunity to try something new and run clean fuel in a few of our buses and see how it goes. And I think it's really great, and appreciate the Washington County schools trying something like this. I think it's really good and worth mentioning.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Commissioner Jones. I know they've done a great job with the grant writer. Any further discussion or comments or questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk has announced the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
Thank you, sir. Next resolution to consider is resolution number 20-0109, resolution amending the fiscal year budget of 2019-2020 regards $3,000 donation to the Washington County Library approved by our Budget Committee on January 15th, and to approve this request. Bring this to you in form of a motion, sir.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Lott. Discussion? Questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
Last one. Resolution number 20-01-10 is a resolution authorizing the refund of $50,000 escrow deposit and execution of all related documents. This comes from a fully refunded to Washington County in the event of elected not to purchase the McCoy property that we were in consideration for. Bring this to you in form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion? Questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Commissioner Edens? All right, thank you. Next report is the Public Safety Committee report. Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, you'll find our minutes on page 103 from our January 9th, 2020 meeting. We have one resolution to come before the commission tonight, Resolution 20-01-11, resolution declaring support for the Second Amendment of the United States of America, found on page 104 of your packet. This comes in the form of a motion from the committee.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald. Discussion? Question? Commissioner Jones?
I just want to comment that I was really impressed and appreciative of everyone who came to speak tonight on both sides. I felt like people who got up and spoke were very respectful. I felt like we had an air of willingness to listen to one another. Appreciated someone who was pro this resolution making the comment that someone against it made some good points. I feel like one of the ways that we can really move locally towards some solutions in this really tough area is conversation, and I thought that we started having some of that tonight, and I appreciated that. I have personally had the privilege of working with a very diverse group of commissioners for the last year and a half, and have deeply appreciated the opportunity to listen and be heard. And I think that's a really important thing about what happens in our communities and locally. And just wanted to make that point and say how much I appreciated that tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 12 yes, 2 no, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Next item. Next item is the Public Works Committee. Commissioner Eads. Or I'm sorry, Commissioner Davenport. I was about to put Commissioner Eads back to work.
You'll find a report of our meeting on page 107. First resolution is Resolution 2001-12, resolution authorizing the disposition of Highway Department surplus property on gov deals.
All right.
That comes to you in form of motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seconded by Commissioner Edens. The motion was made by Commissioner Davenport to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes.
Next resolution we have is 2001-13, resolution authorizing the repair of a sinkhole at the industrial park and related interlocal agreement and other costs associated with economic development. That's the form of the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Discussion? Questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 no, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Davenport?
Next resolution is 2001-14, resolution changing the name of In Wheelock Road to Niles Wheelock Road.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport to approve resolution 2001-014. seconded by Commissioner Jones. Discussion? Questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, 1 absent, and the resolution passes.
Okay, next resolution is, 2001-24, acceptance of proposal of the Tennessee Department of Transportation to construct a bridge over Little Limestone Creek.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion? Question? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and unlock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, resolution passes.
Our next resolution is 2001-26. I think we have a change in this resolution, Superintendent Deacons.
We have some corrections to the road list. One of the commissioners called and brought one of them to our attention. Not on the agenda, but on page 7 of the road list. Y'all have a copy. When we voted to change the name of Brethren Church Road, to change the spelling, that was not corrected. So after 3 years, we missed that. So a debate. So whoever called, I appreciate that very much. It's supposed to be spelled correct, B-R-E-T-H-R-E-N now. And then on page 8, Buchanan Road, we had it in block 1, it's supposed to be in block 2. On page 8 of the road list. And then if you go to page 15, Dean Archer Road, it's in block 4 as in road number 640-A, and then block 3 as 640. It splits in the blocks there at Leedy Lane, so we corrected that part there. And then on the last page of 77, the corrections we made on a double entry, I think your all shows 2,200 and some miles of road. Well, that's not correct. We had one double entered on miles instead of feet, so it should be 964.0093633749. So basically, 964 and 110. And also, that would change the number of roads, would be 1,494 is how many road names we have. So with 1,494 road names and 16 entries on every road just about, we're going to make a few mistakes. So, but every 10 years we update a road list, and we're going to do that in February because when I took office we had right at 700 miles of road. Now we've got 900 and some, so we try to keep our 4 blocks that most of you are familiar with equal mileage. So where we have the most growth, that's where we have most increased mileage. So we try to keep it equal. So that's coming up. So we may find more mistakes. If we do, we'll bring them to your attention. Is there any questions? Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr.
Then I see you, Mr.
Thank you.
Deacons.
So is it appropriate here to give this resolution with the changes?
Yeah, let's ask the county attorney if she wants a formal motion on that, or we can just go ahead and make those corrections.
Yes,
to us this afternoon after speaking about these changes. So your resolution will not be changed. There's no need to amend it. But when signed and made record in the clerk's office, it will include the corrected exhibit.
Thank you. So our last resolution is 2001-26, resolution adopting Washington County road list.
Motion by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion or any further questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, resolution passes. Commissioner Davenport? Anything else? All right. All right, our next report is the Purchasing Committee. Commissioner McAllister, looks like you all were busy for the Purchasing Committee.
I'm not the chair of that committee.
Well, according to our last records, 2019, you were. Now, me and Mrs. Green have awarded that to you, but now if you would like to direct us to who is the chairman, we'll, is that you, Steve? No. I think we missed the last election of the chairman of the Purchasing Committee. Did he do a good job?
No, Commissioner Davenport did a real good job. I'm going to have to step in.
Oh.
Since I was there, Commissioner Davenport and I were there. But you'll see our minutes were on page 202. We have two resolutions to bring to you tonight. First resolution is Resolution 2001-15, resolution authorizing one-year lease between Washington County, Tennessee, and Old Town Hardware for building use as a voting location. That's on page 211.
All right. Does that come in the form of a motion?
Well, since we did not really have a quorum at our, I don't know how we can. Did we? Oh, did we have a quorum? Yeah.
Are you bringing that in the form of a
No, I'm not.
motion? No.
But Mr. That's it. But Commissioner Edens just said he did.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the resolution. Motion made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Light. Floor is open for discussion. Commissioner Carriger?
One question. $95,000 1 year, that's giving me a little hard time. Am I being unreasonable when I look at that? That's $95,000 just 1 year.
It's actually 77.5 now. It was negotiated lower.
What about the common area maintenance? That's included. Including 75? 77.5. Okay, so it's 95, 77.5? Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams? Yes, the landlord has offered to us that if we did so choose to purchase it, that he would apply this rental money towards the purchase price of the building. But there is no purchase involved at this time. There's no agreement to purchase. Isn't that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Right, the purchasing, as you can see, and Mr. Carriger pointed out, the bid that was put out on the market was $95,290 all inclusive, and it was for a lease of 1 year. And Budget Committee asked me to negotiate with the owner of the building that he graciously did, and we reduced the 1 year lease, all inclusive, $77,500. And
Thank you, Mayor. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Carrier? All right. That was about a tie, Commissioner. Commissioner Malone?
Yeah, if I may, I just wanted to clarify, of course, we had some discussion about this in budget, and I commend the seller. He has certainly been, I think, flexible and patient. But I just wanted to make sure that I fully understand. The plan is, as I understand it, to lease it for the 1 year for the sole purpose of it serving as a voting site. And Mayor, am I understanding that correctly? So the election commission is not moving their offices or anything like that?
Mayor, they would have full use of that building, though. Is that not correct? Whatever they so choose to do in this year, they would.
There's no restriction, but as you recall, when this building was being considered for purchase, it was $300,000 build out in order to accommodate your office space, which is not existing.
Yes. Commissioner Jones?
I know that the Election Commission has really struggled to find voter locations, and I'm just wondering, what is the process by which we continue to follow their work in identifying sites for what will be in November, huge numbers supposedly of turnout of people. I still feel a little heartburn in those words of that amount of money. We're really only needing that building for 3 early voting periods, which is a few weeks a piece. And I don't think the big turnout will come until November. We still have some time to problem solve a site, but I feel the challenge is really getting good communication and hearing from the Election Commission on their process, and us being able to provide assistance or connections with some folks. And I feel like I was able to do that a couple times when you all came to whatever committee I'm on that you came to, and I appreciate being able to do that. Would do it some more if I saw you, but I don't see you all that often. Is there a way to get more communication back and forth, even if we pass this? We need communication. This is a big election year. A lot of people come in to vote. We're down a site because we're not using the public health department, and we don't have a process here for getting timely information about voters having access to the polls. So can anybody answer that question? I don't even know who this is directed at. Anyone who knows the answer can answer it. Sure.
Remember back close to a year ago, I guess, the CIA election commission came in and brought all these concerns up to us then. They were looking for a site. They were looking for something in Johnson City better because the health department was shut down. They had the school and the city was going to leave it. They were concerned what was going to happen out there. So I know we need communications, but I don't think it's the election commission to blame. They came to our meetings twice, and we approved that resolution way back when.
Right.
And I've been to several budget meetings. They've been to, for months now, they've been coming to budget meetings, stressing their concerns. So I don't know if it,
Yeah.
I just hate to see them get labeled as not communicating, because I think they've been pretty vocal about the fact that they need it.
Sure. And just to be clear, not that they're at fault, but that a process for them communicating is not in place. I just haven't had the opportunity to hear more follow-up on the identification of sites, and just wish that was a better process. I feel like we actually went with them and toured some sites and tried to help a little bit with that, but it's hard to keep up with it when they don't report to any committee or structure on a regular basis.
I think, Commissioner Jones, one of the issues right now is time is drawing nigh.
That's right.
And, we're running out of time.
Right.
And I was in the courthouse today, and it was very busy, and the first thing I saw was election training downstairs. So always when you saw that sign for the election workers to be coming to train, you knew the election was getting pretty close. So that even brought it more urgency, I guess, to my attention today, that we really don't have a optimal plan other than the current plans that we have.
I guess at some level, that's my concern, is that we're only addressing a short-term issue and not more of a long-term.
Right.
And as a short-term solution, this seems like a very expensive one, because since they're not moving their offices, we're paying $77,500 for the use of the building, really. I understand we have the full use of it for a year, but realistically, it's going to serve as a voting location, and so it's going to be used just a matter of weeks. And so it seems like an expensive solution, an expensive short-term solution where we're not addressing the long-term. And relative to the long-term, is it, and I'm not sure who can answer this question, perhaps the mayor, perhaps even the chair, but did I understand that there are plans that exist to actually build a new election commission building on this side of the road?
There were plans in 2006 that were designed to do that. However, those plans are somewhat aged, and the cost would be uncertain at this time. However, you can look at it in two different ways. There is a set of plans, and there is some estimate. Whether you build that set of plans out into the ACE building, or you build that set of plans into a brick building across the street. Well, I don't know what that best option is, and I think we don't have the time to really sit down and digest through all of that right now. But I think, the election commission, being the body of its own, probably needs to look at those and kind of weigh out what their wishes were. The election commission, and back in 2006, I assume, I don't even think, that's been some time back. I think Mrs. Sinks was here then when they proposed these plans. So our administrator of elections has not even seen that design. But I think this will give the election commission some time over the next year for them to come back and say, we all know we're in this process, so we need to start it sooner than later. And we have copies of those plans, and be happy to sit down with the election commission and look at those and maybe start to price some of those things out. That's all I could recommend. We do have someone that's still requesting to speak. Commissioner Williams?
I happen to notice that there's 5 months between the March 3rd election and the August 6th. Could be examined during those 5 months as to what a more permanent plan might be if we're not going to go with purchasing?
I would hope that we could bring back something before the coming budget year to be considered before then. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, switches to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 9 yes, 5 no, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. All right.
So back to me, Mr. Chairman?
Back to you,
Okay,
Commissioner.
All right, so we have, next resolution is a resolution authorizing a 5-year lease between Washington County, Tennessee and the Pentecost of Jhansi for Princeton Arts Center building to be used as a voting site. Okay. I'll go ahead and bring that as a motion.
There's a motion. So motion made to approve that resolution by Commissioner McAllister, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Floor is open for discussion.
Call for question.
Hold on. Okay, Commissioner Williams, go ahead.
Princeton.
Commissioner Williams? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Is it good? All right. Any, did I miss anybody? Was anybody had any discussion? Okay. And the question was called. Madam Clerk switches to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes.
And that is all that I have from the purchasing committee, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. You done a good job,
Thank you.
Commissioner McAllister, not to be the chairman, I'll tell you that. Boy, Commissioner Light, I tell you, you got a good one tonight. I know. But then what was really bad, they told me up front, man, Shay said, Brian Davenport done a great job. I don't know how that goes. So. All right, on to the... Well, I'm just saying, that's what was said. All right, on to the Rules Committee report. Commissioner Tester.
Can I say that Commissioner Wheeler is their chairman?
Well, you sure can. We can.
That appears to be going around tonight. Go ahead and give the report. The Rules Committee has been working on a method for citizens to express their interest in serving on boards and committees. And along with that, we have Resolution 200117, which amends our Rule 10B. The application for service that citizens can fill out is on page 237 of your packet. And 238, 237, 238 is the back of it. Basically, there's two different types of situations that we can get into. One is where the commission is actually appointing someone, and in that situation, what we have talked about, the procedure being, is that these folks who express their interest in those slots would be referred to the appropriate committee according to our other rules of procedure and the chairman's and county attorney's discretion. And then that committee would send those recommendations to us in the form of a resolution for us to vote on. The other situation is where, for instance, the mayor or some other entity makes an appointment that we are confirming. Those are kind of the two situations that we are in, and we tried to word this rule so that it would take care of both of those. And in so doing, there's a couple commas in this that, with the county attorney's approval or agreement, I talked to her before the meeting. In the new rule, about halfway down, it says, the list of nominees shall be selected from applications referred to the appropriate committee, comma, or person, comma. We want to take that second comma out after person so that it reads committee or person or entity making the appointment to be considered, because that's kind of the two situations we have, the committee making recommendations, or we may have a situation where there's a person or entity that's making an appointment. So that second comma after person, and then couple lines down, there's another second comma after person. I believe from our discussion earlier, we can consider those as typos.
Absolutely.
And approve the resolution without officially amending it.
I agree.
Okay. Does anybody have an issue with that? All right. Well, then I make a motion on behalf of the committee that we approve Resolution 200117.
Motion made by Commissioner Tester, seconded by Commissioner Wheeler to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Questions been called? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Chester?
That is it, unless anybody has any questions.